Good morning, everyone. Carolina Weather Authority meteorologist Joshua Nagelberg with the latest on Hurricane Delta. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest videos. Visit us on our Facebook page as well. We're talking pretty much about Delta and its effects on the southeastern United States over the end of the week and weekend. We also have an article Mike put out yesterday about potential impacts here in the Carolinas as we head towards the weekend. So you'll definitely want the latest on that. Here's a look at where we're at in the hurricane season. 25 named storms, 9 of them hurricanes, and 3 majors. I'm calling Delta a major hurricane. I know the newest advisory is going to be out any minute now, and that will likely confirm it. And if it isn't now, it will be at the next advisory for sure. So, we are above average on all fronts as far as our storms go. Of course, well into the Greek letters now. And let's get to the forecast. Now, we're talking about Delta rapidly intensifying. This started yesterday morning when it became a tropical storm. And now currently aircraft are in there finding that it's approaching major hurricane intensity. It continues to strengthen. The satellite image continues to improve. And this is some very bad news for folks in the northeastern Yucatan and eventually folks in the central Gulf Coast states as well. This is likely going to be at the minimum, a strong Category 4 storm like Laura was, but we believe it can get to Category 5 based on a lot of environmental conditions that are in the Northwest Caribbean and the southern Gulf of Mexico. So you can see our track here. The yellow is the cone of uncertainty where the actual center of the storm could be, so that could make landfall anywhere from Cameron Parish, again, Louisiana, to Baldwin County in Alabama, which is just southeast of Mobile. Of course, both of these areas were hit, so anywhere from where Laura hit to where Sally hit. The call right now is for landfall as a low Category 3 or a high Category 2, around 110, 115 miles per hour, which will cause quite a bit of damage across the Louisiana coastline and even inland. The area in orange I have right now is the area I believe will have hurricane conditions at some point during the storm. That includes Baton Rouge, it includes Lafayette, New Iberia, Houma, Morgan City, all of far southeast Louisiana, and including greater New Orleans. This could end up being very bad for the city of New Orleans with this current track. The track has shifted a little bit west based on what the models are thinking about the strength of this high pressure ridge. It could still change though. The best case scenario for New Orleans is a track farther east into Mississippi and Alabama, or a track farther west towards areas that are still almost uninhabitable after Hurricane Laura. Either way, this is going to be bad news for the Gulf Coast, and now is the time to prepare as evacuations could be ordered as soon as tomorrow morning across southern Louisiana. So this could be one of Louisiana's worst storms, certainly one of the worst October storms. Right now, tough to say if it's going to be close to what Laura was or what Katrina was, but as the storm continues to intensify down here, we of course have room for concern farther north. And I'd say it's about a 50-50 chance it's going to be a major hurricane by the time it makes landfall. Remember, Katrina was a Category 3 when it hit Mississippi. Laura was a 4. So this one will be close to those levels potentially. The remains are going to head up into Mississippi and eventually into the Tennessee Valley and Mid-Atlantic states. South and east of that track, there could be severe weather, strong winds, and tornadoes, which includes potentially the western and central Carolinas and Virginia as we get to later Sunday and first thing on Monday. Heavy flooding rain looks possible along the track and then inland, places like Jackson, Mississippi, Florence, Alabama, maybe Nashville, southeastern Kentucky, and West Virginia. We could be talking about a ton of rain coming in a short amount of time. So that's something we'll get into more detail with pretty soon. Here is the 8 o'clock advisory from the Hurricane Center. I'm awaiting the 11 a.m. Eastern. I will get that to you at the end of the video. But what I will show you is that the pressures continue to steadily fall in the storm. We've had a plane fly through and find the pressure has fallen to 957 millibars. And that drop in pressure continues to be very rapid, as this time yesterday it was in the 980s to low 990s. It has dropped more than 30 millibars here in 24 hours, and there's really nothing in the way of it that shows it can't continue to drop. I will show you this graph of what the winds look like. At flight level, they are measuring winds of about 110 knots, which is about 125 to 130 miles per hour, and those are at flight level. Near the ground, those drop off probably by about 10%. However, the surface measuring wind instrument here, the SFMR, is measuring wind speeds at the surface at around or just past 100 knots, which makes this a Category 3 storm with winds around 115 miles per hour. So you can see Each pass of the center has shown stronger wind. You can see it's climbed from 95 to almost 105 knots. So in just an hour, the winds have already gone up almost 10 miles per hour. And this trend could likely continue based on what we are seeing right now. We'll have more data here as the plane continues to fly. And it looks like it'll make another pass through the western part of the storm. There is an eye, although it's still filled with clouds right now, and I'm going to show that to y'all here real quick. The infrared loop shows the storm moving west-northwest, passing southwest of Grand Cayman. This is the Yucatan. This is Cozumel. We're expecting on this track for it to cross the northeast Yucatan, and that very well could weaken the storm briefly, although it's got a chance of, with the momentum it's likely to have strengthening now, has a chance of maybe regaining some strength. We think it'll be a Category 5 somewhere in here, and maybe weakens to a 4, possibly gets back to a 5 for a brief amount of time in the southern Gulf before eventually it does have a chance at some weakening. You can see a very well-organized center here. It continues to grow. It's not a huge storm, but we'll likely see an eye in it later on today or tonight as the winds continue to climb, pressure continues to drop off, and this has the makings of a storm that looks like it could be similar to a Gilbert or to a Wilma. Those two are some of the worst storms to ever hit the Yucatan Peninsula. You can see on the map, Cancun is right here. This is Cozumel. The track basically takes it right through this area, so we think Cancun could get leveled from this storm with winds of potentially over 145 miles per hour leveling Cancun. It's going to do a lot of damage on this current track. Looking less likely it's going to come through the channel, and more likely it's actually going to cross this area. And don't forget, oh, by the way, there was a strong tropical storm, Gamma, which hit here on Saturday. So they got hit by 60, 70 mile per hour wind on Saturday, and now we head to Wednesday, and we're talking 100 plus mile per hour wind across this entire region. Just really can't get any unluckier than that. Here are what the latest models show. And you can see almost every single model takes the storm near or north of Cozumel, right through Cancun, and then back into the Gulf of Mexico later Wednesday, where it will still be over very warm water and low wind shear. The average tracks have shifted left for the most part. Every single track now showing a landfall in Louisiana. Only one model shows it going back into the Gulf and hitting Mississippi, Alabama, but everybody else coming by near or to the west of New Orleans, perhaps right over Baton Rouge and just to the east of Lafayette. So this is actually pretty good agreement, although I will caution you, I have seen models agree very well and then continue to adjust as time goes on. So if we see this high pressure ridge pushes west, we'll see the track shifting west as well. If we see it weaker, it'll shift east. Right now, I'm okay with this forecast with landfall somewhere near the Atchafalaya Bay coming up through Baton Rouge or just east and putting New Orleans and the North Shore in potentially a very bad spot. The intensity forecast, we are already closing in on Category 3 strength. We think it could be a Category 4 here by tonight and maybe even a 5 before landfall in the Yucatan tomorrow. A lot of models are now starting to show at least a 4 and perhaps a good decent chance at a 5 here with peak intensity in about 2 days. So that would be Thursday morning once it's over the southern Gulf. And then the good news is that it's unlikely to continue at that strength. We should see weakening, although some concern here if we're at a Category 4 with landfall approaching Louisiana, which looks like it's going to be late Friday night, early Saturday morning. Here's a look at the HMON tropical model. It's showing a pretty good initialization of pressure. For whatever reason, it's showing some weakening and then re-strengthening. It is stronger than the other tropical models, but you can see the track goes right over Cancun here around 5 in the morning tomorrow, and then really only spending about 7 hours over land, 7-8 hours, and then ramping right back up here over the southern Gulf of Mexico, tracking northwest here into the central Gulf, where pressures are expected to drop into the 930s, which is where Laura was. So this could be as strong as Laura when it's south of Louisiana. Good news is that I think it is going to gradually weaken, although this is, of course, a very big concern, with Friday afternoon showing perhaps still a Category 4 down here, but then weakening expected. And this track, by the way, if this model is right, spares Lafayette the worst, probably keeps it east of Baton Rouge, but we're talking Ascension, St. James, Tangipahoa, St. Charles, St. John the Baptist, Terrebonne, Lafourche, Orleans, St. Charles, and Jefferson Parish all getting in on hurricane force conditions. And this could cause a lot of damage for New Orleans if this track is correct, and a lot of flooding on the North Shore. Places like Slidell, Madisonville, Covington, Mandeville, Ponchatoula, Beatico, those areas could be underwater if this forecast track is correct. So hopefully it won't be, but definitely something of concern here if this track is right. And I will tell you, these tropical models like the HMON and the HWRF have done a lot better job than the global models have during this hurricane season, particularly in the Gulf of Mexico. Water temperatures right now are at their warmest. The storm is going over 30 degrees C water. That's 86 Fahrenheit. They slowly drop off in the north central Gulf. Once we get to about 27, we're likely to see some weakening, but still a lot of warm water available here. A look at the wind shear forecast and the steering, you can see this is the high pressure ridge, which has kept everything away from Florida, stronger than it looked maybe 5 days ago when I thought Florida was going to be a threat, and this happens, of course. We do have an upper level trough, which is dropping all the way down into Mexico, and what this will do is turn the system around the high and push it north and eventually northeastward. You can see this trough will lift northeast and push everything along, but look how light the winds aloft are here. I'm going to show you the wind shear in the green, and very favorable low wind shear, which is why the storm is strengthening so quickly. It's got some great environment for development. It's got low wind shear in the green. It's got an anticyclone, high pressure aloft, and it has very warm waters in here. The wind shear does pick up by the time it gets to the northern Gulf Coast, so it will weaken before it hits, but it's already going to be a large and destructive storm at that point, kind of like we saw with Katrina. I'll also show you the ocean heat content. Super, super hot here in the Northwest Caribbean. That's why we think it could be a 5 here in about a day, and then starts to drop off, but it'll still be enough to support a major hurricane until it gets farther off to the north. Let's take a look here real quick again at the Hurricane Center, and we do not yet have the 11 o'clock advisory. I'm going to stall a little bit. What I did want to show you guys of concern is what's called the SHIPS model, the Rapid Intensification Model. This is a tropical model that measures a percentage of intensification, and right now the model is showing, as the storm is about 90 knots when it was run at 6Z, a 50% chance that it could strengthen 35 more knots. That's about 150 miles per hour. A 36% chance it could go 40 knots stronger, and a 39% chance it gets 45 knots stronger. So I'm taking the over on this one, saying it's going to get to this 45 knot intensification. That will give you a 135 knot storm, which is about 160 miles per hour, strong enough to become a Category 5 hurricane. If this number were less than 10%, I would be going Cat 4, but because it's almost 40%, I am going to go Category 5. We've seen this with storms like Gilbert and Wilma, and same time of year, basically, September, October, over the warmest part of the ocean basin with low wind shear. So I'm going out on a limb saying this is going to be a Category 5 storm here in about 24 to 36 hours in this region in here. Let's see one more time if we have an update, and we do. Category 3 storm as expected, 955 millibar pressure, 115 mile per hour winds. And let's see if we have a graphic yet, maybe not. But basically, going over the discussion, we can see that they are now forecasting 140 mile per hour strong Category 4 hurricane before landfall in Cancun, and then perhaps still a Category 4 in 60 hours, with landfall looking to be at Category 3 intensity, 125 miles per hour right before landfall, and then weakening to 80 miles per hour after landfall. So probably around 100 mile per hour to 110 mile per hour is the Hurricane Center forecast. I'm going a little bit higher based on what I'm seeing. They tend to be a little bit conservative on these things. And last thing I'll show y'all is the European model showing the track of the storm has shifted a little bit farther west and all the way to the south of the Texas-Louisiana border, but then it turned to the northeast. So if you are in southwest Louisiana, do not let off at this point, even though the track is to your east. The GFS model is a little bit farther east, shows that storm coming in right near the central part of the coast of Louisiana, basically just west of Morgan City. We'll take a look real quick as well at the ICON model, and it is showing. 1 second while it loads from weathermodels.com here. All right, let's look at the 6Z real quick. Showing landfall in southwest Louisiana, just east of where Laura came ashore. So the trends are farther west, which of course concerns me and should concern you all in southwest Louisiana. But again, our track keeps it open from near the Texas border over to near Baldwin County, Gulf Shores, Mississippi. Best chance in central Louisiana. Don't be surprised if we shift this track a little bit more to the left, which is a little better news for New Orleans, but I would not be surprised seeing what guidance has shown this morning, that still many solutions bring it in from the southwest and come right on across the western part of New Orleans, which would be a worst case scenario for them as well. All right, folks, I'll have more for this later on, but I hope you all subscribe to our channel and stay safe out there. Please have a wonderful day, and God bless.